He would bleed without protest and ache without complaint if he could be called champion. Obscurity was all he feared.
I'll tell you a story about the kind of guy Rocky was.
Publicist Murray Goodman.
I brought him up to Rochester, where we gave away the Hickok belt. And Ray Hickok fell in love with him. And he gave him 100 gross of the little miniature boxing gloves. The next week at camp, Rocky was selling them for $1 a pair. He was, I wouldn't say cheap, but that was his upbringing.
He could not be described as graceful. Even his trainer, Charlie Goldman, refused to conceal the obvious. Said Goldman, he was one of the clumsiest fellows I ever saw in the ring. Rocky Marciano did not appear to have the height or size of a legend in the making. He was 5'10", around 185 pounds. But Marciano had a frightening tolerance for pain, and a fury few have possessed.
My mother says I was destined to be a fighter because I looked so much like one as a young kid.
Brother, if looks mean anything, look out for the Brockton Blockbuster.
Born Rocco Francis Marchegiano, years later Marciano would become his ring name. He first dreamed of playing baseball. Then came World War II and the Army, the beginning of his experiments in the sweet science. So he came late to boxing, 24 years old when he had his first pro fight. He relied on a primal desire that reminded many of Jack Dempsey, Rocky's youngest brother, Peter.
I think especially Italian people, and a lot of times underworld people, liked being around Rocky because he was everything that they wanted to be.
Family friend, Pat Petronelli.
Everybody wanted to be a fighter. All the kids were shadow boxing in town. They all they all opened up little gyms. And the Italians, especially in Brockton, they loved Rocky.
Raised in Brockton, Massachusetts, the son of Italian immigrants, a child of the Depression who carried lunch daily to a father he'd see slumped over a shoemaking machine, Marciano wanted so much more for himself and his family.
Hello, boxing fans, wherever you may be, but especially to those in New England. I'm in good shape for this fight, and I hope I come through all right.
In 1951, the future, Marciano, collided with the past, Joe Louis, age 37. Years before, there had been a kinder, gentler encounter. Izzy Gold.
He was a guest referee at the Brockton Arena one night, and we followed him to the men's room. He went in a stall, and I boosted Rocky up, and then he boosted me up. And Joe Louis looked up and saw us, and when he came out, he gave us $1 apiece. So that was one of the biggest things in our lives. Little to be known that that kid that he gave the $1 to would knock him out later on in life. It was amazing when you think about it.
In 1952, opposing heavyweight champion Jersey Joe Walcott was a test of pain. Izzy Gold.
Every punch, he lifted Rocky off the canvas. I don't think any living human could take the punishment that Rocky took that night and still win the fight. It was unbelievable.
Historian Angelo Prospero.
So that one right hand that night in Philadelphia created the mystique of Rocky Marciano and made him as a great champion.
The shoe town had a new identity, and Brockton proudly celebrated its native son. Thousands of the city's working-class citizens had gambled it all on Marciano. Homes, cars, and bank accounts. This was their thank you. Pat Petronelli remembers the day.
Here's a fellow that I'd gone to movies with, and all of a sudden, he's a giant. It didn't look real, and it didn't feel real. Here's my guy that I've known for years, my buddy, and here I'm screaming like everybody else. I said, what are they hollering at? All of a sudden, Rocky's little car come by us, and I jumped in and hollered as loud as everybody else. Hi, champ. Good luck, champ.
Peter Marciano was in a parade car behind his brother.
I honestly believe he would have been much more comfortable maybe walking down the street or maybe being one of the crowd waving to that famous person driving down the street in the open vehicle.
Even as champion, it was said he had the grin of a shy fellow happy to be recognized.
Rocky
In April 1956, his record 49-0 with 43 knockouts, Marciano summoned Murray Goodman to his New York hotel room.
I said, what the hell's going on here? He says, I can't bend down and get up. My back is killing me. I said, what's your problem? He says, I think I ought to retire. I said, after telling me this, you're asking me a question? He said, of course you ought to retire. He said, okay, call a press conference. The next day we called a press conference. He announced his retirement.
I would like to announce my retirement from boxing at this time.
A lot of different versions of this, but mine is the true one.
And so it was that Marciano, age 31, after just 6 title defenses, retired undefeated, before his powers had diminished. Years later, on the night before his 46th birthday, August 31, 1969, he boarded a private plane flying from Chicago to Des Moines, Iowa. Peter Marciano.
I was contacted by a person in Florida at about 1:30 in the morning. I called my mom. My dad answered the phone. My mom got on the other line, and I said, Mom, something terrible has happened. Rocky was killed in a plane crash. At that point in time, my mom said, Filho me fora da mão. Translated means, my son, the heart of my life. A moment I will never forget.
The father was devastated.
He felt that something of great importance left his life. And it was not too long after that that Dad ended up passing away.
Nicky Sylvester.
It's something that people don't know. When Marciano got killed, he was decapitated, closed casket, and people never knew why. I had found out why. I was told that Joe Louis kissed the top of the casket and looked at the ceiling of the funeral parlor down in Florida and said, God is giving himself a beautiful man. Amazing. Really amazing. Should never have been.
Izzy Gold.
I think of him all the time. It got so now I can't even watch his fight films. It was a terrible shock in my life.
Marciano appeared to attract pain because he so often walked into punches. But he compensated for a lack of artistry with round after round of relentless attack. Perhaps Rocky Marciano endured when others did not, because what he feared far more than the pounding was the possibility of losing. The fear of being something less than the heavyweight champion of the world.
He never changed. From the time we were kids, he never changed. He was Rocky.